presentation boards taking notes is look for the one or two things that are really key to you. Don't worry about trying to write the whole PowerPoint down because I will email you the PowerPoint. You can have it. There's not anything, everything that all of us have, we've gotten from somebody else anyway. So I can no more claim ownership or, proprietary interest in this PowerPoint than the man in the moon. It's just a compilation of things that I've learned over life and through sales training and through experience, etc. So you can have this if you will either send me your email address, or I can send it to Mike. He can send it out to anybody that wants it, or whatever. I will give it to you. So I don't want you to labor with trying to write down everything you see on the screen. I want you to soak in the concepts and the ideas, but look for a couple of things that are a major handle for you. Okay, Albert Moravian did a classic study on communication, and there's multiple components to it. Suffice it to say that the end of his study said, and it's still the recognized authority, that we're only going to remember about 7% of what we hear anyway. Okay, so I'll try to tell you which part of it is that 7%, okay, that you need to remember. But I'm going to throw a lot of stuff your direction, and I'll give you the PowerPoint presentation basically in one sentence if you want it, and I could just say this and then be done. And be through. Listen more and talk less. That's it. That's the whole present. Listen more and talk less. Charlie used to say we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. There's a reason for that. There is a reason for that. We're supposed to listen at least twice as much as we talk, and maybe much, much, much more. Now, as a prelude to this, I will just share with you that the enthusiasm, this is not meant to make you feel, oh gosh, I messed it all up. No. Because I am very much like Mike. I get excited and I can talk all day long about advocacy. I have no problem finding enough things to say. And I can fill in I can answer questions that nobody asks. And by the way, there's $1 million idea. Do not answer a question that nobody asked. That'll save you an immense amount of time in your presentations. If nobody asked, don't answer it. Now that's not withholding important information. It's just simply saying, I want to be on the page you're on. And if you're interested in the SciMed board, I'm going to give you a couple of points of information that are useful. But if you don't ask about the SciMed board, and if you don't ask XYZ, I'm not going to go there. It'll come up in its appropriate time and place, and I'll share it. But it's kind of stereotypical that something when Mike said that back the truck up and dump the whole load on somebody. I found this great sales company in Dallas called Advocate. It's 18 years old. And they got a SciMed board, got 270 years of combined experience. And they got thousands, if not millions, of non-paid endorsers. And the number gets bigger every time somebody says and just blah, 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 blah. And we know in the head level what's actually happening to our prospect. We just need to slow down and let it get to our heart and adjust our behavior for it. Because most of those are questions that nobody asked me. So I'm looking for a way to communicate value that's contextual. Okay, so that's what this is all about. Are you listening? And Mike, since Mike has seen this before, he said, listener or talker? And so I want you to do 2 things. I want you to, first of all, think about which one you would generally say you are. But sometime, before the day's over with, ask either your spouse or a good friend or somebody what they think you are. Because remember, it is not what you think you are that really matters here. It's how you are being received and perceived that matters. Because it's not about me, it's about you. So, listeners or talker, which one am I? And how do my prospects or my team members view me? Now, don't miss, I'm not being critical of the enthusiasm and the emotion that we have about advocacy. I'm right there with you. I'm going to stay right there with you. The problem is not that we have too much emotion. The problem, honestly, is that we don't have enough. enough emotion about this in many respects, but the emotion can be demonstrated in certainty and posture and demeanor and clarity and the precision of words rather than the sheer number of words. I can demonstrate strong emotion by the words that I use and the way that I employ them. So that's the question. So let's just do a little look in here. Now these are broad strokes, okay? These are broad strokes, as most training always is. But generally speaking, when you find someone who listens to you, you think, that's a pretty considerate person. It's not all about them. They're willing to take time to hear me. What's important to me? How I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing, what I want, what I'm interested in, what I don't want. But a talker, stereotypically, can seem to be presumptuous. As if I kind of know everything. And I've already figured you out and I know exactly what you need, and if you'll just do what I tell you to do. All right. Humble versus egotistical. Because I've got to be, to a degree, or at least I will be perceived to a degree as being humble, if the conversation is not all about me and me communicating my ideas, but rather deferring to your interests. Okay? Real or phony? And we had the wonderful opportunity to sit down with a great couple yesterday at lunch. And he has a wonderful, extensive, massive background in the automobile industry, so we were laughing. And you know, and people who sell automobiles get a lot of hard times. You know, they get a lot of unfair and unwarranted jokes. Sometimes it's absolutely warranted, but sometimes it's unwarranted. But what typically comes to mind is the car sales. Oh, I've got a deal for you. Well, let me check with my manager and see if I can get right back to you. All that kind of stuff. Well, you know in your gut, okay, come on. You already know what you can sell this car for. Why don't you just tell me? Let's just be real. Professional. There is a subtle air of professionalism and internal confidence that's communicated when you listen that is absent when I'm doing all the talking. Sometimes from a good motive, I want the person I'm speaking to believe that I know what I'm talking about, because I believe it's important that I have credibility and that I demonstrate some degree of skill or knowledge or competence in what I'm doing. So I talk too much and I forfeit that sense of centeredness, calm, confidence, focus. I am so settled in what I'm doing. I hope you'll come and go with me because it's going to be a great ride. But you know what? If you choose not to, that's okay, because I'm going anyway. And my better future is not necessarily dependent upon whether you do or don't do the business, because somebody will. I hope it's you. Honestly, Snow, I hope it's you, because we'll have a ball working together. But if you don't, it's okay. I'll check you later. I want to come from a position of strength rather than a position of need or beg or cajole. And there's some subtle things that listening builds into the conversation that help me get there. My interest is meeting needs, or you are perceiving me, hopefully, as being interested in your needs. If I'm actually asking what your interests are and what your needs are, what would be a win for you, what problem could we solve, what situation could we enhance, what changes could we make that would be meaningful to you, or if I'm just doing all the talking, boom, 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 you get the feeling that the end result is grab your wallet because I'm trying to get to it. And I think there's one more. Yeah. This might be the most important phrase on the entire PowerPoint. Put yourself back in the position where you were when someone first introduced you to Advocare. And this may be more or less your experience. So again, I'm talking broad stroke. But what I want to have happen and what you want to have happen when you're sharing value with friends is you want to do everything you possibly can do to reduce tension and increase trust. You want trust rising while tension is decreasing. What happens in an unintended manner when I'm doing all the talking, and even though you may be sitting there smiling at me, and you're listening, you're thinking, is he ever going to shut up? And what is it about me that makes him think I can't? You know? So I don't want to be building tension in you by just boom, boom, boom. Because that's becoming uncomfortable. You're looking at your watch and thinking of a way to get out. I want to be reducing tension, but building trust. So to honor you and to value you and to defer to you and to respect you and to listen to you implicitly builds trust. And let me give you an example of that. I've had this happen to me. I would venture to say that many, if not most of you, have had it happen to you. Something bad has happened, or discouraging, or frustrating, or disappointing. And you just needed somebody to talk to. You got on the telephone. And you called and your friend said, hello. Hey, it's Rick. Hey, Rick, what's going on? Man, you got a minute? I just need to talk. Sure. And so I start talking. And 30 minutes later, my friend hasn't said much at all. I've just talked. And I find myself saying, wow, man, thank you for taking time for me. You have really helped me. Well, what did they do? They didn't do anything. They just listened. They didn't do anything. They listened. They didn't necessarily provide a solution or change the circumstance. They just listened. And you know what happens inside of me? I trust them just that much more because they listened. Now, this is real world stuff. You may think, well, Rick, do we have to get into all of this kind of stuff to be successful in AdvoCare? No, I'm just planting the seeds, and it is a goal worth you being aware of and pursuing consistently. You don't have to stop what you're doing, retool yourself completely before you ever talk to the next person. Just be aware that the more you listen and the less you talk, the more impactful you are. And the more impactful you are and the more trust you build, the more likely you are to get positive results. Okay? All right. So that's kind of a thought starter. Now let's jump into it. Effective listening is learned behavior. We don't do it naturally, most of us. It's learned behavior. I mean, effective listening. Now, not just being present and looking at someone while they're, and it's kind of like the TV commercials, what we're hearing, that's not effective listening. Effective listening is learned behavior, but it is an easily learned skill, and it's something that you can get better at very quickly if you just begin to pay attention. It's not something that you have to take 3 years of master's level courses on to do. It's just a couple of simple disciplines that you can employ, and you can employ it with your spouse, you can employ it with your kids, with your employers, with your employees, with your friends. You can practice it in virtually every conversation that you have, and so you can make significant progress quickly. But it is learned behavior. It is intentional, especially for those of us who are wired up to be talkers. In fact, it's funny, somebody will say, well, Rick, you think I'm a talker or a listener? Well, I say, if you're asking me honest, broad stroke, I perceive you more to be a talker. Well, I got to tell you, I don't really think I am a talker, because even hello? And there is the validation that I was correct. It's not about me being correct, it's just we don't sometimes actually apply it to us. We apply it to everybody else we know. We just don't apply it to ourselves. Learn behavior. Here's what you learn. Learn, first of all, to check your tendency to prejudge according to physical appearance, age, gender, race, or any other thing that might be in your mind or your background that you're kind of scanning for. For example, I go to Alabama a lot to work with AdvoCare distributors. And if you are an SEC fan, in the state of Alabama, there's actually only one football team. And it's very important that you know who you're talking to so that you can identify what one team that is. Because there's only one. And so if somebody comes up wearing a shirt from that other school, and that's not my school, well, so you're from there, you know? And you know what, there's some friends that I can have fun with and laugh about that. But it is a simple little illustration that there's some things wired into me that I need to be aware of when I'm sitting down with you. And I need to check my tendency to make assumptions or judgments based upon things that had absolutely nothing to do with whether AdvoCare could be valuable to this person. Just take them right where they are. Check that tendency. Learn to recognize and handle bad past experiences and other triggers that might distract you. I could give you a dozen examples here, but let me give you one that in fact, I just saw it again, it's successful. Judy Bieroff, I had the privilege of hiring Judy onto the corporate staff to be my assistant just a little bit more than 12 years ago. And Judy and Jim, and Jan and I and our boys, and their kids were all members of the same church. And so one night, Tim, right before church service started, comes and said, Judy, you know everybody under the sun, I'm looking for somebody to do this, and you know people everywhere, and here's the kind of thing that, you know, you do it. And she said, well, how about me? You know, and so that was it. I mean, it was done right there. That was the interview and the hiring process right there. I said, are you kidding me? Yeah, come on, you're in. Well, Judy's husband, Jim, is a couple of years older than I am, but he is a motorcycle rider. There's some motorcycle riders in this room. He's real serious about it. And he is into the bikes and into the gear. And if Jim were to walk in there right now, your initial impression might be, depending upon where you come from, that's a bad man right there. Because he's got the chin hair, and he's wearing the leather, and he's got the tight t-shirts, and he's got that swagger on. You think that's a bad man. Jim Bieroff is one of the kindest, gentlest human beings on the face of the planet. So you could make some assessments about what you're seeing that would be absolutely inaccurate. So I just want to create a clean slate for everyone. Learn to manage your personal agenda during the conversation. This should be part of your 7%. Manage your personal agenda. Because if you are in sales, you already know, and you are in sales, by the way. This is a selling enterprise. I like the phrase sharing. I personally prefer to use the phrase sharing when I talk about what we do. Because to say sales evokes images and ideas that I think are not applicable to what we do. But in sales, and since there is transactions, I have an agenda. I am hoping very much that Snow is going to say yes, and she's either going to at least buy product or buy product and enroll. And I'm really hoping that down the road, she'll become a very productive and active member of my team. I have an agenda. And you have an agenda. In fact, I want everybody to say, I have an agenda. Say it. I have an agenda. And then say this, I want to make a sale. I want to make a sale. Okay. Some of you have never given yourself permission to actually say that. You do want to make a sale. And you know what? Nothing happens in the United States of America unless somebody's selling something somewhere. Did you know that? You want to know what makes this economy work? Sales is the mechanism by which money moves. So we're in an honorable profession. What we do is a good and a right and a healthy and a thousands and thousands of years historically solid, sound enterprise. You be proud of what you do. And don't let anybody look down on us because we're in sales. But I have to manage my agenda wanting to make a sale when I'm talking with you. Because here's the fact of the matter, and I better recognize it, you have an agenda. So, you know what happens in that, if you're in car sales, forgive me, but that stereotypical car salesman thing, you get the battle of the agendas going on. It's your agenda to get the best price you possibly can. It's their agenda to get the most money out of you that they possibly can. Boom, 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 boom. And it starts to feel almost brutal sometimes. Well, okay. I've got a simple answer for that, but it's not going to be simple in its expression initially. The simple answer is this: I subordinate my agenda to yours while you and I are sitting down face to face. I subordinate my agenda to yours while we're sitting down face to face. I have an agenda. It's legitimate. It's honorable. I'm there to add value to their lives. I want to make a sale. But that's not the primary point. The primary point is, first of all, to find out what your agenda is. Because if I can find out what your agenda is, then I'll be equipped with the information, the perspective, the knowledge, the understanding to be able to position AdvoCare as a solution if you have a need. If you have an interest. If you see or hear something that piques your interest, I know where to go to serve you most effectively if I have subordinated my agenda to yours. I find your page, I get on your page, and go with you on your page. Remember I said the other night, or it was last night, if you were there, Zig Ziglar said, help enough other people get what they want, and you will get what you want as a result. Get on their page, serve them, meet their needs, and as a result, you will generate a recurring income. So I'm not going to get into the battle of the wills with people. I'm just not going to do it. Number one, if you think about that for a moment, for your downline team members, by the way, you're exceptional just being here this morning, so I'm cheering for you, I'm applauding you. You're exceptional, but for the people that you will introduce to AdvoCare, remember, this is going to rock your world. Remember that every time I sit down with anybody, from that moment, I am modeling for them what this business looks like. Not after they enroll. When I first have the conversation, I am role modeling what this business looks like. So if it becomes a battle of the wills and it's all about me and I've got to talk you into submission, then I have just taught you something that it's going to take me a long time to unteach you. So I want to role model the right behavior to start with and say, this is about you. And I've got some solutions that are of tremendous value to me. I think you would appreciate knowing about them, but let's talk about where you are right now. Because I would love to duplicate that with my team, right? I'd love to have 1,000 people out there in the community today having conversations like that. Because that becomes attractive, it builds trust, it decreases tension. Gives people the freedom to listen without fear of the close that's coming. Learn to consider the prospect's state of mind. Angry, nervous, tired, sad, distracted, etc. I have got to learn to do that. And here's quite simply what that means. If I run across, Debbie, where are you? I just saw you a minute ago. Where are you, Debbie?
She went out of coffee.
She went out of coffee, okay. All right, then I'll talk to somebody else. Anthony. If I see you in the grocery store and you have 4 children and 2 of them are with you, but you're on my warm market list and I've been thinking about you, etc., and haven't worked up the courage yet, but there you are in the grocery store and you're pulling the kids along with you and, hey, Anthony, it's great to say, hey, Rick, it's great to see you, etc., etc., etc. And one of the kids is unhappy and one of the kids is tired and I say, hey, what's up? Well, we're on our way to one of the boys' games, and just got to grab a couple of things here, takes the snacks to the kids and all that kind of stuff. So, well, listen, man, I've got to tell you about this thing that I found here. It's called AdvoCare. And she's crying and she's mad and he's trying to get out of there and stuff. I am wasting my breath and poisoning an otherwise productive opportunity. And if I call somebody and say, hey, have you got a couple of minutes? Oh, and I hear all of it in the background. Or they say, I really don't. This is just not a great time for me. Terrific. got to be aware of what I'm seeing here. Pay attention to what you are seeing and hearing. Because a person's state of mind has everything to do with their capacity to receive what we're saying. And I don't want to throw gold out into the pig pen. I want to have a setting where a person is generally undistracted, generally relaxed, and we've got appropriate time for me to offer value and plant concepts and ideas that can change their lives. So sometimes I need to just back up and say, you know what, Anthony, I can see, man, this is a busy time for you. I've been thinking about you because I'd really like to visit with you. Would you have any time tomorrow afternoon that I might give you a call? Or maybe we could meet for coffee or something. Okay? Great. I'm not going to say, hey, I found this great direct sales company called Avoc. And you're just going to love hearing about it. No, he's not. Because I just blew it. I just said way too much. Not necessary. Not profitable. Okay? So pay attention to what you're seeing. If this is not the right time, back off. Now be a steward of, I want to be a steward of the opportunity. When would be a good time when you and I could spend about 15 minutes together on the telephone? Let me share some things with you that are important to me, and then you'll know if we want to have a further conversation. When would be good for that? I've got time open in the morning or tomorrow evening. Which works best for you? I do want to be a good steward of following up, but I do not want to try to force a square peg into a round hole. Okay? All right. Here's some of the other things that we're going to learn. First thing is first, make a friend. Now, we teach you to go to your friends, your family members, those within your circles of influence, and we do that for a reason. But do you know why we teach you to do that? And I think that you probably do, but just in case you don't, let me tell you why we teach you to do that. In financial services with the Equitable, I was not allowed to speak to my warm market or my natural circles of influence for about roughly 120 days. We were required to do cold calling. And there was two reasons for doing cold calling. One, it's an amazing training ground. It's brutal, but it's an amazing training ground. And the other thing is they did it intentionally, realizing that about 95% of those in that particular class were going to quit. Because they could not deal with no. And did you know that people can get really colorful in the way they tell you no? I mean, it's amazing. They can be creative and enthusiastic, emotional. They can be strong in how they tell you no. And so a lot of people can't deal with that and say, if that's what it is, I don't want it. Well, I don't like how that system operates, but I understand why they do it. They're trying to weed out those who just can't deal with no anyway, because no is a fact of life in any kind of selling enterprise. And the faster that I can embrace no, the simpler my journey is going to be. And the more relaxed and the more confident I'm going to get, because no is not going to unsettle me or rock my boat. But I want to make a friend. Why? I want to go to friends. Why? Because if you had to do this thing totally cold market, there's maybe 3% of you in this room who would continue to do it. If I told you got to go out and stand at the major street corner when the light turns red, run up and knock on the window of the car, hey, I'm selling vitamins, you want to buy some? Well, I know that's a ridiculous illustration, but if that was why you had to do it, most of you say, no, not in this lifetime, not doing it. So we want you to go to friends because friends are safe places. Friends are where you have influence, and influence is about trust, and trust will give you enough leeway to have an initial conversation. Now, it does not guarantee that you're going to get a yes. Even friends will tell you no or not now about Advocare. But if you go to friends, you at least have the chance to have conversations. Most friends, if you'll present appropriately and politely and genuinely, relationally, they'll hear what you have to say and then they'll make their own decision. So we want you to go to friends because that's the place where you're the most likely to have success fast. And you're skilling up and getting better in the context of